Anika Sharma and Ryan Thompson seemed like the perfect couple, beautiful, wealthy, and adored by everyone around them, but behind the glittering wedding celebrations lurked a deadly obsession that would turn their dream night into a shocking nightmare. The city of Jaipur was alive with celebration, its streets glowing under the warm golden lights that reflected off colorful decorations and festive lanterns. Families from both sides had gathered, their excitement and anticipation filling the air with a palpable energy. Anika Sharma, a young woman from a respected and affluent family, was about to marry Ryan Thompson, a groom whose family had carefully crafted every detail of the wedding to display wealth and sophistication. From the grand floral arrangements that lined the ceremonial hall to the exquisite silk fabrics draping the walls, every element was designed to impress. Guests arrived dressed in their finest attire, their eyes widening at the spectacle before them. Musicians played traditional melodies while photographers moved through the crowd, capturing every moment for posterity. Anika, in a richly embroidered wedding dress, glided into the venue like a vision, her makeup flawless and her jewelry sparkling in the light. Her smile was radiant, projecting a sense of happiness and elegance that everyone admired. The groom, Ryan, stood waiting, his expression carefully neutral as he observed the crowd and the bride. Though outwardly calm, his mind was racing, calculating, and scrutinizing every detail of Anika's appearance. The wedding was, on the surface, perfect, an event meticulously orchestrated to present an image of joy, wealth, and harmony. Friends and family whispered about how beautiful the bride looked, how charming the groom appeared, and how flawless the ceremony seemed. But beneath this dazzling exterior, a tension lingered, subtle but undeniable. No one could have guessed that behind Ryan's composed demeanor, a dangerous obsession was quietly building, one that would soon transform the night of celebration into an unimaginable nightmare. Ryan Thompson had always been a man obsessed with perfection, a trait that had grown stronger as he aged. From his early years, he had measured the world by appearances, judging people and situations according to how closely they matched his ideals. This obsession extended into every part of his life, from his meticulously arranged home to the carefully curated social image he maintained online. When he first saw photos of Anika Sharma, he was immediately captivated, not just by her beauty but by the idea of her as the embodiment of everything he considered flawless. To Ryan, she represented a living picture of perfection, a woman who could enhance his carefully constructed world. No one else saw what he saw, no one could comprehend the intensity of his fixation. As the wedding day approached, Ryan's thoughts were consumed with controlling every detail of the event and of Anika herself. He envisioned her exactly as he wanted, flawless and unchanging, and any deviation from this imagined image caused a quiet but growing agitation within him. Friends and family noticed his insistence on precision, from the exact placement of decorations to the way Anika's wedding attire had to look. Yet, beneath his calm exterior, his obsession with perfection was more than mere fastidiousness, it was a dangerous, consuming fixation. While the world saw a groom preparing for a dream wedding, Ryan's mind was already spiraling, constructing a narrative in which Anika had to match his impossible standards. This silent obsession would soon collide with reality in a way no one could have predicted, setting the stage for a night that would turn celebration into tragedy. The day of the wedding arrived with a sense of grandeur that seemed almost unreal. Anika Sharma stepped out of the car, her appearance radiant and impeccable, every detail carefully arranged to meet the expectations of the elaborate ceremony. Her dress shimmered under the sunlight, her jewelry glinting with each movement, and her makeup flawlessly accentuated her features. Guests gasped in admiration as she walked down the aisle, and Ryan Thompson watched intently, his eyes scanning every inch of her carefully crafted image. To the world, she looked perfect, every element of the bride and the ceremony aligned with the vision of a flawless wedding. Yet Ryan's fascination went beyond admiration, it was an obsession that bordered on compulsion. He had already formed an idealized version of Anika in his mind, a version that existed only in his imagination, and he was determined that reality would match this illusion. Behind the smiles and applause, there was a quiet tension, invisible to the guests but palpable in the groom's mind. Every step Anika took, every gesture she made, was scrutinized, compared against the image he had meticulously constructed. As the couple exchanged glances, Ryan felt a strange mixture of excitement and anxiety, a sense that the moment of truth was approaching. While the wedding appeared flawless, a silent storm was brewing beneath the surface, fueled by Ryan's intense fixation on perfection. The night promised celebration and joy, but for Ryan, it also carried the unspoken weight of expectation and obsession, a weight that would soon tip the balance between admiration and horror, turning what should have been a dream wedding into the prelude to an unimaginable tragedy. As the celebrations wound down and the last of the guests departed, the newlyweds were left alone in the grandeur of their suite. The room, decorated with flowers and soft candlelight, exuded an air of intimacy and elegance. Outside, the city lights of Jaipur twinkled, painting the windows with a warm glow, but inside, a tense quiet settled over the couple. Anika, exhausted from the long day of ceremonies, felt a sense of relief at finally being away from the crowds, unaware of the storm gathering in Ryan's mind. He watched her carefully, his eyes tracing every detail, noting the smallest imperfections, or what he perceived as imperfections. In his mind, this night was not just a continuation of the wedding, but the moment when reality would either validate or shatter the ideal he had built over months. The air felt heavy with anticipation, though no one else would have sensed it. Ryan's thoughts raced as he prepared himself for what he believed was the inevitable revelation of Anika's true self. Every gesture, every movement she made seemed magnified in his perception, feeding both his fascination and his anxiety. To Anika, the room was a sanctuary, a peaceful end to a long day, but for Ryan, it was the stage for a confrontation with reality that he had been imagining long before their wedding night. The tension in the room was invisible yet undeniable, a quiet prelude to the shocking events that were about to unfold. In that luxurious suite, amid the soft glow of candlelight and the lingering scent of jasmine, the perfect facade of the wedding night began to crack, signaling the approach of a tragedy no one could have anticipated. As the night deepened, Anika, exhausted from the long day of ceremonies, began to remove her makeup, unaware that Ryan's gaze followed her every move. The careful layers of foundation, eyeliner, and lipstick that had created the flawless image everyone admired were gently wiped away, revealing the natural contours of her face. To any ordinary observer, she still looked beautiful, soft, delicate, and entirely human, but to Ryan, this was a moment of unimaginable shock. The image he had built in his mind, the perfect version of his bride, vanished instantly. His heart raced, not with love or admiration, but with a growing, uncontrollable fury. Every feature that once seemed ideal in photographs now appeared, in his twisted perception, as a betrayal of his expectations. A strange silence filled the room, broken only by the faint rustle of fabric and the soft brush of hair as Anika prepared for bed. Ryan's thoughts spiraled as obsession collided with reality, his need for perfection morphing into a dangerous, irrational rage. What should have been a quiet, intimate moment between husband and wife instead became a volatile turning point. The simple act of seeing Anika without makeup, a natural and human moment, became a trigger for the darkness that had been building inside him for years. In that instant, the room seemed to shrink around them, the warm glow of the lights turning cold in Ryan's mind, as the obsession he had carried silently all these months erupted with deadly intensity. The night, which had begun with celebration and anticipation, was about to transform into a scene of unthinkable horror. Ryan's reaction was sudden and terrifying. Without warning, he reached for the firearm he had hidden earlier, his hands trembling with a mixture of rage and disbelief. The luxurious suite, which had moments ago been filled with calm intimacy, erupted into chaos as the first shots rang out. The sound was deafening, shattering the fragile peace of the night and echoing through the mansion. Anika fell to the ground, her body unable to escape the relentless assault, each shot marking a tragic end to a life that had only just begun. Outside the room, the distant music of the wedding celebrations was replaced by muffled screams and confusion, but no one could immediately comprehend the horror unfolding within. 15 shots tore through the stillness, each one a violent punctuation in the room where dreams and fears collided. Ryan, driven by obsession and the distorted reality in his mind, showed no hesitation, no pause between the acts. By the time the weapon was finally set aside, the suite was filled with the weight of silence, broken only by the faint echo of what had just occurred. Guests, hearing the commotion, rushed toward the source, but the scene they discovered was beyond comprehension. The grandeur of the wedding, the carefully arranged decorations, and the soft candlelight became a grim backdrop for a tragedy that no one could have imagined. In the span of a few terrifying moments, a night of celebration had been consumed by violence, leaving a permanent scar on everyone connected to the couple. The horrifying truth was clear: Ryan's obsession with perfection had escalated into an act of unimaginable cruelty, a destructive force that transformed love into lethal obsession. The aftermath of the tragedy was chaotic and devastating. Authorities arrived at the mansion to find a scene that was almost too horrific to process. Anika lay lifeless, the vibrant energy that had filled the wedding now replaced by a chilling stillness. Ryan, pale and eerily calm, had already called the police himself, a disturbing contrast to the violence he had just unleashed. Guests and family members were in shock, their screams and sobs echoing through the grand halls as they tried to comprehend the horror. News of the incident spread quickly, and reporters began covering the story, capturing images of the mansion and recounting the shocking details of the wedding night. Investigators worked meticulously to piece together the events, examining the weapon, the room, and Ryan's behavior leading up to the murder. It became clear that this was not a random act of violence but a calculated, premeditated crime fueled by obsession and control. Anika's family, devastated and heartbroken, struggled to understand how a day meant for joy could end in such brutality. Friends recalled Ryan's peculiar fixation on appearances, hinting that his reaction might have been brewing long before the wedding night. Social media erupted with speculation, outrage, and horror as the story captivated the nation. The mansion, once a place of celebration, had become a grim monument to obsession gone horribly wrong. The contrast between the beauty of the wedding and the violence of the act made the tragedy even more shocking. In the days that followed, the world struggled to reconcile the image of a perfect wedding with the reality of a life taken in a moment of uncontrollable rage, leaving a haunting question: how could love and obsession collide with such deadly consequences? As investigators dug deeper into Ryan's past, disturbing truths began to surface, painting a picture far darker than anyone had imagined. Friends and acquaintances described a man who had always been obsessed with control and perfection, someone who measured people and situations by impossible standards. Relationships had ended abruptly over minor flaws or perceived imperfections, leaving a trail of confusion and fear among those who knew him. His online activity revealed a fixation on idealized images of beauty, a compulsion to compare and judge relentlessly. Even his engagement to Anika, initially presented as a storybook romance, was marked by secret monitoring and manipulation. Ryan had meticulously planned the wedding, down to the smallest details, ensuring that every element matched his vision of perfection. Psychologists later described his behavior as extreme obsession, a dangerous need to dominate and control, fueled by anxiety and rigidity. The more investigators uncovered, the clearer it became that the tragedy was not a sudden eruption of violence but the result of a long-standing pattern of unhealthy obsession. Every choice he had made, every expectation he had placed on Anika, was part of a twisted narrative he had constructed in his mind. What shocked everyone most was how seamlessly his calm and charming exterior had concealed such a dark, obsessive nature. The murder, horrific as it was, became a window into the consequences of allowing perfectionism and obsession to escalate unchecked. Ryan's past, once invisible, revealed a series of warning signs that, in hindsight, could have hinted at the catastrophe that ultimately unfolded on the wedding night. The trial of Ryan Thompson became one of the most sensational and widely covered cases in recent memory. News outlets documented every detail, from the lavish wedding photos to the shocking crime scene, captivating audiences across the nation. In court, the prosecution presented evidence of Ryan's long-standing obsession with appearances, his secretive planning of the wedding, and the premeditated nature of the murder. Witnesses recounted his controlling behavior in previous relationships, painting a disturbing picture of a man consumed by his need for perfection. The defense argued that Ryan had been blindsided by Anika's natural appearance, attempting to frame the tragedy as an impulsive act driven by shock. But the jury was unconvinced. Medical experts and psychologists testified about the extreme nature of his obsession and how it had likely built over months, if not years, leading directly to the murder. The courtroom was tense as the evidence was laid bare. Photographs, messages, and witness testimonies all pointed to a pattern of dangerous fixation and control. Ultimately, Ryan was found guilty of premeditated murder, and the sentence was severe: a life behind bars for the man whose obsession had escalated into lethal violence. The verdict brought a measure of closure to Anika's family, though the grief remained immeasurable. Public reaction was intense, sparking debates about beauty standards, mental health, and the pressures of appearances in modern society. The trial, while over, left a lasting mark, turning the story of a lavish wedding into a cautionary tale of obsession, control, and the tragic consequences when perception of perfection overtakes humanity. Ryan's calm demeanor throughout only highlighted the chilling reality that his obsession had been methodical and deeply ingrained, making the tragedy all the more horrifying for those who had once celebrated the couple. Anika's death left a permanent scar on everyone connected to her, from her family to the wider community that had once celebrated her wedding. Her life, full of potential and dreams, was abruptly ended by a man consumed with obsession, leaving grief and shock in its wake. The story became a symbol of the dangers of valuing appearances above humanity, sparking conversations about societal pressure, mental health, and the destructive power of obsession. Families, friends, and even strangers reflected on the tragedy, questioning how an event meant to celebrate love and union could end in such horror. Social media and news outlets debated the unrealistic expectations placed on beauty and perfection, and how they could fuel dangerous behavior when left unchecked. Ryan Thompson's life sentence served as a grim reminder of accountability, yet it could never undo the devastation caused by his actions. The mansion where the wedding had taken place, once a symbol of celebration, now stood as a haunting monument to a night of unimaginable violence. Though Anika's life was cut short, her memory inspired reflection and awareness about the extreme consequences of obsession and the importance of compassion, acceptance, and realistic expectations in human relationships. Across India and beyond, the tragic story remained a chilling lesson: beauty is transient, perfection is an illusion, and obsession can transform admiration into destruction in the blink of an eye. The memory of that wedding night, forever etched in headlines and hearts, serves as a haunting reminder that behind the facade of celebration, darkness can lurk, waiting to shatter lives in ways no one could anticipate.